Think logically. You're a fake parent. I was speechless. Why did I have to be told something so cruel? My husband John's stepson, David, was recently accepted into a prestigious medical school. I had just decided to cover his tuition and had gone to the bank earlier. When I got back, I put on the suit I had prepared for the entrance ceremony and showed it to them. Their reactions were cold. John frowned, and David looked clearly displeased. I didn't understand why. Being called fake felt like a deep thorn had pierced me. Yeah, fake parents shouldn't come to the ceremony. I was too heartbroken to say anything back. Who could have predicted that the family I chose to love would turn their back on me so easily? This feeling inside of me was more than just sadness. Every day after that felt colorless. On the day of the ceremony, I decided not to go. I left the suit in my room and went out. Just then, my phone started ringing. It was John. Hey, what's the meaning of this? You liar. He shouted in a rage like a man on fire. The truth, something even I didn't know, was soon revealed by the person next to me. My name is Jessica. I'm 51 and single. All my friends are married, and some already have kids who are young adults. Lately, with their kids grown, I've been meeting up with more friends who've got their freedom back. Listening to their stories, sometimes I found it heartwarming, and other times it sounded tough. But, nobody really changes much, do they? On my way back from the tea party, I muttered that to myself, deep in thought. If I had a husband or kids, how would I be spending my time now? Would I be, like my friends, reflecting on the challenges and joys of raising children? But I don't let being single weigh on me too much. What I still think about, though, are my late parents. My father had been sick since he was young. Even during tough treatments, he always smiled gently. He was like the sun. Even after he became bedridden, he kept up his love of reading, and would still give me books he recommended. My father passed away when I was around 30, and my mother and I cried together. After my father's death, I was in shock and became listless for a while. It seemed like my mother felt the same way. After losing my father, she suddenly became very forgetful, and the house became a mess. My mother had always been so neat and tidy, but something was wrong. Thinking that, I convinced her to go to the doctor, and they told us dementia had started. Living alone at the time, I immediately moved back to my mother's house to take care of her. From then on, I spent my days facing both my mother and her dementia. My mother would start searching for the trash I had already thrown out. She'd keep opening the front door, saying someone had come, even though no one was there. Eventually, she was even sad over the death of a cat we never had. My mother and I spent 20 whirlwind years, not quite sure what was happening day by day. And just recently, my mother passed away too. After the funeral, with a deep sense of loss, I began sorting through her belongings. It wasn't something I could finish in a day or two, so I made slow progress, taking breaks in between. I opened the window and looked up at the sky. The clear winter sky had a hint of a spring breeze. How long had it been since I last noticed the change of seasons? Maybe I've been too tense all this time. I took a deep breath and went to the kitchen to make some coffee. Just then, the doorbell rang. I checked the camera on the intercom, and it was one of the tenants from my apartment building. Before my parents passed away, I inherited an old apartment building, and I've been a landlord since I was in my 30s. Because of that, I've become quite close with the tenants. They're all friendly, kind people, and they often share things like cookies or vegetables when the season comes. The apartment is about a 10-minute walk from my parents' house. Since she came all the way here, I wondered if there was some kind of trouble. I stepped outside, a bit anxious, but that wasn't the case. She had heard about my mother's passing and came to check on me out of concern. She was about my mother's age and had been very close to her. I responded with a forced smile. It's okay. I always knew a day like this would come. But, you know. Lately, you don't seem yourself, Jessica. Really, I'm fine. Your mother took care of me too, you know. Yes, I know. Her eyes were swollen from crying, showing how much she truly grieved. After sharing some memories, we made plans to visit the grave together next time. With someone who cared for her like this, my mother would surely rest in peace. Suddenly, I remembered something. This apartment building would soon have to be torn down. Just before my mother passed, I received a notice from the city about an informational meeting. At the meeting, they announced a redevelopment project, and this area, including the apartment, was going to be turned into a road. So, 5 years from now. I sipped my coffee and stared absent-mindedly at the calendar on the table. Within these 5 years, I'd have to relocate the tenants and find a contractor to demolish the building. Part of the costs would be covered by the city if I applied for it. Still, it's hard to just tear it down without hesitation. To others, it's just an old apartment, but for me, it holds memories. Frozen pipes, clogged toilets, noise complaints. Looking back, there were plenty of challenges. There were things I couldn't handle on my own, but with my parents' help and the advice of contractors, I managed to get through it all. Spending days looking through paint samples for the exterior walls is also a good memory. It's a shame, but I guess it really has to be torn down. The tenants will need time to find new places too. I'll make a notice soon. Losing my mother and now having to let go of the apartment is incredibly sad. To shake off that feeling, I gulped down my coffee. Then, I set aside sorting my mother's things and started working on the notice. The tenants came to visit me one after another every day. They were all concerned about me. The longer they had known me, the more they would reminisce about my mother. Of course, even those who didn't know her well still spoke with me. Lately, I've been talking a lot with John Parker, who moved in about a year ago. He chose to move in because the rent was cheaper than other places in the area. He lives with his son and said education costs a lot. You've been through a lot, Jessica. Well, it can't be helped. I'm sure my mother is smiling in heaven now. You're strong. I lost my wife a few years ago, and it was hard to recover. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
She was sick with a serious and complicated illness. Was she in the hospital? She wasn't hospitalized, but I took care of her at home. That must have been tough, especially with your son, too. While caring for my wife, I had to cook and go to school meetings in her place. It was hard. His hearty laugh didn't show any of the hardship. Maybe that's part of his charm. His stories were always amusing and kept me entertained. When talking with John, the grief of losing my mother and the sadness of having to tear down the apartment would disappear. I gradually realized that I was becoming attracted to him. Even while shopping, I found myself wondering what John's favorite dish might be.
Oh no.
What am I doing? I waved my hand next to my face, trying to brush away these thoughts. I'm in my 50s now, I need to know my place. That's what I told myself. But whenever I saw John, we'd end up having such a fun conversation, and my resolve would waver. Before long, John and I grew closer, and we started calling each other by our first names. One sunny day, John came over with a serious look on his face. He said he had something to discuss, so I invited him inside to talk this time. I had just posted the notice, so I wondered if he was here to inform me of his move. We sat across from each other, feeling a bit anxious, when he suddenly began. Actually, what I wanted to talk about is... What's going on? Why are you being so formal? Well, I've liked you for a long time, Jessica. Slowly, he pulled out a small case from his pocket. As he opened the lid, he said to me, "Will you marry me?" Inside was an elegant ring, sparkling brightly. Huh? Me? I was so shocked that I blinked several times. I thought it must be a mistake or a joke, but it seemed he was serious. John leaned forward and said, "You're so calm, yet talking with you is always fun. I feel like I'd want to spend my life with you. But, I'm already 51. Age doesn't matter. I don't choose people based on that." John said this with a serious look in his eyes. Marriage is about living our lives together. I want the person I share my life with to be you. John. But maybe I'm not good enough. I do have a grown child. That's not true. I feel the same about you, John. And so, I accepted his proposal and we decided to get married. That night, I took a long bath and stared up at the ceiling. I never imagined something like this would happen at this stage of my life. You really never know what life will throw at you. I looked at my sagging arms, wondering if I could even wear a wedding dress. As I was preoccupied with those thoughts for several days, John brought some exciting news. His son, David, had been accepted into a prestigious medical school. Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm so relieved. He was so tense during the exams, so now we can finally relax. We need to celebrate. How about ordering some pizza? Well, there's a bit of a problem. What is it? The thing is, even though he got in, we can't afford the tuition and fees. Medical school is really expensive.
Oh no.
At the very least, we have to come up with the admission fee by the deadline. Seeing how troubled he was, I found myself equally worried. If things stayed like this, David wouldn't be able to start medical school. If only I had been more responsible. John clenched his fists tightly, frustration evident on his face. When his mom got sick, he said he wanted to be the one to cure her, and that's why he aimed for med school. I didn't know how much medical school costs. I couldn't afford to cover all the costs, but I thought I might be able to help with the admission fee. If it's for the admission fee, I can take care of it. Really? His face instantly lit up. Yes. After all, we're family now. Thank you. Thank you. Now David can become a great doctor. Don't cry so much. Let's support David together. After that, I asked for the exact amount of the admission fee and started preparing for the transfer. In fact, some money had already been transferred to me by the city as compensation for the apartment demolition. I checked the balance on my bank app and told John and David that the admission fee would be covered. That's such a relief. Thank you, Jessica. I mean, Mom. I'm so glad. Now, enough of that. Let's eat the celebratory pizza. Congrats on getting in, David. It looks delicious. Let's eat. They reached for the pizza, quickly finishing it all. Watching them happily enjoy the pizza, it almost felt like I was watching my own son, and I couldn't help but feel happy. Thinking about starting this new life with these wonderful people made me feel much more optimistic. I felt determined to do my best for this new family. The next day, after confirming the account for the tuition transfer, I went to the bank. There weren't many customers that day, and I was called as soon as I took my ticket. As I approached the counter, I made eye contact with someone in the back, and we exchanged a small nod. It was Mr. Smith, the branch manager. When he noticed me, he stopped what he was doing and came over. Jessica, it's been a while. How have you been? Yes, I've been well, thanks to you. You were a big help back then. Mr. Smith had helped me with the inheritance of the apartment and other assets. We've known each other for about 20 years now. When my mother passed, he was very supportive, and I still remember how much that helped. My father used to say that Mr. Smith was sharp and reliable. So, what brings you in today? I showed him my bank book and the transfer slip. Well, I recently got engaged, and I'm here to transfer the admission fee for my fiancé's son. I expected him to say, "Oh, that's wonderful," but he didn't. His expression darkened slightly, and he looked at the transfer slip and then at me with suspicion. Would it be all right if we had a quick chat in private? Both the teller and I were confused, but I followed Mr. Smith. He led me to a small room in the back of the bank, the same place we used for the inheritance discussions. Mr. Smith stared at the transfer slip and asked me a question. This is for a medical school, correct? And the son is aspiring to become a doctor? Yes, that's what I've been told. Forgive me, but could you explain how you came to marry your fiancé? Huh? I was a bit taken aback, but I decided to be honest. I told him that after my mother passed, I started talking more with John, one of the tenants of the apartment I manage. He had taken care of his wife, who had a serious illness, while raising their only son. His wife passed away a few years ago, and now he lives with his son. He proposed, saying he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. Right after that, the subject of David's admission fee came up. I felt like I could do my best for this new family. That's truly wonderful. But, this John, you mentioned. Oh my, I shouldn't be calling him by his first name. It's Mr. Parker. John Parker. Mr. Smith repeated the name softly, then tapped his fingers on the desk, deep in thought. The rhythmic sound of his tapping filled the room. After just a few seconds, he stopped and spoke. Would it be all right if I held onto this transfer slip for now? Huh? But. Please, just leave this matter to me. Smiling, he stood up. He opened the door and gestured for me to leave, saying, please. Feeling confused, I left the bank. On my way home, I felt as though I had been tricked and thought about Mr. Smith. He had a slightly complicated expression when he heard John's name. I wonder why. But he's someone I can trust. Whenever he said it, leave it to me, he's never let me down. There's still time before the deadline, so it should be fine. I decided to leave everything to Mr. Smith. That evening, I showed John and David the suit I had prepared for the entrance ceremony. It was a two-piece, neat and white. What do you two think? Their reactions were cold. Did you buy that? Wait, are you actually coming? Seriously? John frowned, and David looked clearly displeased. I didn't understand why. Huh? Is it no good? It's not that it's no good, but think logically. You're a fake parent. My heart pounded. Being called a fake felt like a thorn had deeply pierced my heart. That's right, Jessica. Fake parents shouldn't come to the entrance ceremony.
Yeah.
Fake parents shouldn't come to the entrance ceremony. I was speechless. Why did I have to hear something so cruel? Just as I felt my mind go blank, John let out a deep sigh. All right, I'll tell you the truth. The truth? Why do you think we were being so nice to you? It was for money. For my tuition and admission fees. No way. There's no other reason to marry a plain old lady like you. What do you mean? It was all an act?
Yeah.
That's right. It took a while to get close to you and seal the deal. I wanted a younger, prettier woman for a mother, anyway. An apartment manager who just lost her parents. I figured you'd have a nice inheritance. I was hoping you'd cover all my tuition. What a letdown. I can't believe you're only paying the admission fee. There's a limit to what I can do. So, we're done. No more acting. This isn't some spy movie. We're done being nice to you. They laughed loudly. I stood there in shock, not understanding what they found so funny. I was so heartbroken, I couldn't say a word. This white suit felt like a symbol of how I was the only one who got excited. Who could have predicted that the family I chose to love would turn their back on me so easily? It's not something you can just call sad. Their laughter echoed deep in my ears, and I covered them to block it out. From that day on, they ignored me even when I was around. It was like I was there, but invisible to them. I had grown tired of living like that. Thinking about the future kept me up at night, filled with anxiety and worry. Sleepless nights went by, and before I knew it, the day of the entrance ceremony had arrived. That day, I didn't attend the ceremony, leaving the suit in my room as I headed out. I wandered through the city, regretting my foolish actions up until now. Why did I let myself fall for their lies? It was my fault for never doubting them. How should I deal with those two from now on? That's all I could think about. Just then, I felt a tap on my shoulder and heard someone call my name. When I turned around, there was Mr. Smith, standing there with a warm smile. I happened to see you. Is everything all right?
Um,
I couldn't possibly say that I had been deceived by my fiancé and his son. I awkwardly looked away. Just then, my smartphone rang. It was John. Excuse me, I have to take this call. I apologized to Mr. Smith and answered the call. John was furious, shouting at me over the phone. Hey, what's the meaning of this? You liar. Huh? At the reception, we were told, your enrollment has been canceled due to an unpaid $2 million admission fee. That can't be. Explain yourself. Both of them were yelling on the other end of the phone. I was sure I had gone to the bank that day and given the transfer slip to Mr. Smith. As I stood there confused, Mr. Smith, who was beside me, reached out to help. I'll explain. He took the phone from my hand, put it on speaker, and started speaking. Mr. John Parker, hello. This is Smith, a local banker. What? You caused trouble in another town before, didn't you? I believe you were charged with embezzling company funds. Calmly and clearly, Mr. Smith said this. What are you talking about? You fled here from your hometown, didn't you? I was surprised as well. Hey, don't lie about my dad. I wish it were a lie. But I remember well. It was quite the scandal back then. Stop it. It's hard to forget because that embezzlement incident involved our bank as well, since we were doing business with that company. The smile vanished from Mr. Smith's face. Instead, he wore a stern expression, carefully choosing his words as if recalling that time. I remember your name. When Jessica mentioned your name, I became very suspicious. What? Jessica, what did you tell him? I heard you remarried right after your divorce. I must say, your decisiveness is impressive. Divorce. You said your wife died, but that was a lie too. It wasn't a serious illness, and her death was a lie as well. You were served with divorce papers because of that scandal. Shut up. Just transfer the admission fee already. You probably approached kind-hearted Jessica, pretending to be someone who struggled, just to get money, right? Shut up. Hey, Jessica. Everything this guy's saying is a lie. No, John. You're the one who's lying. That day at the bank, I realized on my way home that I had forgotten something and went back. That's when I ran into Mr. Smith. He told me he had concerns about John and asked me to hold off on the transfer for a bit. Since there was still time before the payment deadline, I trusted Mr. Smith and left the money in my account. When I told them I had gone to the bank, they jumped to the conclusion that I had already transferred the admission fee. I never said I made the payment. That night, after showing them the suit, I learned their true colors and real intentions. That's when I realized the real reason Mr. Smith asked me to hold off on the transfer. Today, I was heading to the bank to confirm everything. I didn't expect to run into him in the middle of town, but after hearing everything, it all made sense. I told both you and David to listen to me multiple times. What are you talking about? But neither of you listened to me, so you didn't even know I hadn't transferred the money. They fell silent on the other end of the phone. Confronted with the truth from both Mr. Smith and me, they were left speechless. A few seconds later, the call abruptly ended, and only the sounds of the bustling city remained. After that day, John and I quickly decided to get divorced. John must have realized that everything had been exposed and that I had figured out my finances, so he gave up. I never imagined that the man who laughed so heartily was just an illusion. He and David left my apartment and the city, as if they were running away. Apparently, David had always been troublesome and caused frequent problems in high school. But since his academic performance was good, the teachers turned a blind eye, and it never became public. I looked around the room they vacated and recalled hearing about that. Could something like that really happen? It sounded like something out of a movie. It was too strange to tell if it was true or not. But David did have the ability to get into a prestigious medical school. It's a shame he couldn't use his intellect for something better. I'm done with marriage. A few years later, my apartment building was rebuilt in a different location. And it was only a few minutes' walk from where it originally stood. The day I posted the notice about the apartment, I also stopped by the city office to discuss compensation for the relocation. That's when they unexpectedly found an error in the construction plans for the development project. As a result, the development area was revised, and the apartment only needed to be shifted slightly. Both the tenants and I were surprised, but pleased. Although rebuilding took time, it was completed sooner than expected. I took the opportunity to upgrade the plumbing and other facilities. I wondered if the tenants would stay after all this. As I watched and waited, it seemed like they would stay. Sorry to trouble you, but we'll be sticking around a bit longer. The woman who had mourned my mother's passing and promised to visit the grave with me said this with a smile. Now, we visit the grave once or twice a year and share meals together. We've become close friends. Everyone smoothly moved into the new apartment, and the relocation process went well. The development project continued, and not only the apartment but the overall atmosphere around it changed. The new road made it easier for delivery drivers to get through, and they were happy about it. It also became easier to go to the local supermarket, thanks to the wider roads. The atmosphere felt a little brighter too. The greetings with the tenants remained the same. Everyone was still as friendly and pleasant as ever. You never really know what life will bring. My small whisper dissolved into the clear blue sky.